The silent vastness of space beyond Pluto's orbit was broken by the steady hum of the EDS Defender's engines. Commander Kim stood on the bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the navigation screens. At 42, with 20 years in Earth's space defense fleet, he had never expected to be the first human to encounter alien life. "Contact at bearing 227 by 043, sir," called out Officer Lee from the sensor station. "Unknown configuration. Definitely not one of ours." Kim straightened his uniform jacket. "Battle stations. Quiet alert." The crew moved with practiced efficiency as the unknown vessel grew larger on the main view screen. It was sleek, almost predatory, in design, with an iridescent hull that seemed to shift colors as it moved. "They're scanning us, sir," Lee reported, her fingers dancing across her console. "Deep penetration scans. They're looking at everything, our power systems, weapons, even life support." Kim nodded. "Let them look, but prepare countermeasures if they try anything more invasive." The alien ship suddenly stopped, hanging motionless, against the backdrop of stars. A moment later, the communications officer jumped in his seat. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission. It's being translated somehow. They've analyzed our communications and adapted." "On screen," Kim ordered, straightening his posture. The view screen flickered, revealing a creature with pale blue skin and 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its mouth was small and lipless, and what might have been scales glinted along its jawline. "Attention, primitive vessel," the alien spoke, its voice oddly melodic despite the harsh words. "You have been detected operating outside your designated development zone. I am Scout Commander Rass of the Galactic Hegemony. Your species will now submit to classification and processing. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded." A cold silence fell over the bridge. Kim exchanged glances with his executive officer before responding. "This is Commander Kim of the Earth Defense Ship Defender. We are operating within our own solar system. We recognize no authority over Earth or its citizens except our own. Please identify the nature of this processing you mention." The alien made a gesture that might have been dismissive. "Your species is unknown to the Hegemony Registry. All sentient species must be properly classified and assigned their place in the galactic order. Resistance will result in immediate disciplinary action." Kim's tactical officer whispered urgently, "Sir, their weapon systems are powering up. Energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before, but the intent is clear. Classification involves biological sampling of your population," the alien continued. "Technological assessment, resource evaluation of your planet. Based on findings, your species will be assigned appropriate status and usage within the hegemony." "Usage," Kim repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. "All species serve the greater harmony according to their abilities," the alien replied with what seemed like practiced ease. "Some as warriors, others as laborers, researchers, or resource providers. Be honored. Few species from isolated worlds prove useful enough to warrant direct contact." Kim's hand tightened on the armrest of his command chair. 6 billion lives, the entire human race, reduced to a resource assessment in seconds. "And if we decline this honor?" he asked. The alien's upper eyes blinked in sequence. "Declining is not an option available to pre-integration species. You will comply or face standard pacification protocols. You have 1 planetary rotation to prepare your leaders for our arrival." Kim gestured for the communication to be muted. "Options?" he asked his senior staff. "Their technology is advanced, sir," said the science officer. "But they're clearly overconfident. They came with a single scout vessel. Their shields appear formidable, but their engine configuration suggests they prioritized speed over combat. Capability. Can we take them?" Kim asked directly. The tactical officer nodded slowly. "Their weapons are charging, but our new EM pulse array might disable them before they can fire. It's untested against alien technology, but the principles should be universal." Kim unmuted the channel. "The people of Earth will never submit to being classified as a resource. We've fought too hard for our freedom to surrender it to the first aliens we meet." The alien's face contorted in what might have been surprise or amusement. "Your primitive defiance is noted but irrelevant. Prepare for fire impulse," Kim ordered calmly. The defender shuddered as the experimental weapon discharged. On screen, the alien ship's lights flickered and died. Their communication cut off mid-sentence. "Direct hit, sir. Their power systems are fluctuating wildly," reported the tactical officer with barely contained excitement. "Move in. I want a boarding party ready in 5 minutes. Priority targets are their computer systems and any technological samples we can secure. And find me the ship's database." 3 tense hours later, Kim walked through the alien vessel, now secured by his troops. The ship's sleek corridors were lined with technology beyond human understanding, yet his engineers were already beginning to decipher its principles. "Sir, we've located what appears to be their central database," reported his chief engineer over the comm. "And we've detected a small escape craft preparing to launch from their lower bay." Kim considered this news carefully. "Let the escape pod go, but make sure our sensors track its trajectory as far as possible. They should carry news of what happens when you threaten Earth." Back on the Defender, Kim watched as teams of specialists began downloading the alien database. The wealth of information would give humanity unprecedented insights into galactic civilization and potential threats. "We've made a powerful enemy today," his executive officer observed quietly. Kim nodded, watching as the small alien escape pod disappeared into the darkness of space, carrying survivors who would report Earth's defiance to their masters. "Perhaps," he replied, "but they've also made one. The hegemony thought they found an easy conquest. Instead, they just discovered that Earth is off limits, and now we have their technology to help us enforce that message." As the Defender began its journey home, carrying its alien prize, Kim knew humanity had just taken its first steps onto a much larger, more dangerous stage. The coming storm would test them all, but Earth would not face it unprepared. The massive hegemony vessel hung above Earth like an obsidian dagger, its hull absorbing rather than reflecting sunlight. At 12 kilometers long, it dwarfed humanity's largest space station. On every military base across the planet, defense systems tracked its movement while civilians gazed upward with a mixture of fear and wonder. Dr. Park adjusted her dress uniform as the shuttle approached the alien ship. As Earth's foremost xenobiologist with 15 years of military service, she had been the unanimous choice to face the hegemony. The data from Commander Kim's encounter had kept her team working non-stop for 3 months. "Final approach," announced the pilot. "They've extended some kind of docking arm." Park nodded, watching through the viewport as a metallic tendril reached out from the enormous vessel, gently capturing their shuttle. She felt the subtle shift as artificial gravity took hold. "Remember," she told her small team of specialists, "show no fear, make no apologies." The airlock cycled open to reveal 2 towering reptilian guards with ceremonial staffs that hummed with barely contained energy. Behind them stood a being that could only be Admiral Tok, taller than the guards, with grayish-blue scales that seemed to shimmer with iridescence. 4 arms crossed over an ornate chest plate, and vertical pupils narrowed as they assessed the humans. "I am Admiral Tok," the alien announced, its translator creating perfect English with an unsettling hollow undertone. "Supreme Commander of the Hegemony's 9th Expansion Fleet, Keeper of the Galactic Charter, and Personal Envoy of the High Council." Park stepped forward. "Dr. Park of Earth, Chief Science Advisor to the United Earth Government and designated diplomat for this meeting." The alien's head tilted slightly. "Your species sends a scientist rather than a ruler to meet me. Curious choice. On Earth, knowledge often commands more respect than titles," Park replied evenly. "I understand your biology, your technology, and your intentions better than anyone." Tok made a clicking sound that might have been amusement. "Follow me to the discussion chamber. We have much to resolve regarding your attack on our scout vessel, an unprovoked act of aggression against the hegemony." They walked through corridors of impossible architecture, where gravity seemed to shift directions without affecting them. Living metal walls pulsed with soft light, and servant drones, semi-organic constructs with multiple appendages, floated past carrying unknown instruments. The discussion chamber was a circular room with a central platform surrounded by a liquid that wasn't quite water. When they stepped onto the platform, holographic displays materialized around them, showing Earth from various angles. "A remarkable world," Tok observed. "Unusually high biodiversity, extensive water coverage, your species, has damaged it considerably, though not beyond remediation under proper hegemony management. Park felt her team bristling beside her, but maintained her composure. We didn't come to discuss Earth's management by outside forces, Admiral. We came to establish boundaries. Tok's upper arm spread wide in what seemed like exasperation. You misunderstand your position, Dr. Park. Your species illegally attacked a hegemony vessel. The standard response would be immediate pacification of your planet. I have come instead to offer terms of submission that will preserve much of your autonomy, provided you accept classification and integration. Park activated her tablet, interfacing seamlessly with the alien holographic system, a capability that made Tok's eyes narrow. Before we discuss terms, Admiral, I'd like to share some information about humanity that your scout ship failed to gather. She projected a series of images: ancient battlefields, modern laboratories, astronauts planting flags on Mars, and deep-sea explorers charting abyssal trenches. Humans evolved on a predator-rich world with extreme environmental variations, she explained. Our history is defined by constant adaptation to threats, both natural and self-created. Where most species in your database evolved toward specialization, we developed extreme adaptability. Tok watched impassively. Many species have warlike pasts. The hegemony brings order to such chaos. Not like ours, Park countered, displaying more images. Humans can survive in environments ranging from Arctic ice to desert heat. We've developed medicine that can regrow organs, weapons that can split atoms, and the ability to conceptualize technologies we haven't yet built. She paused. Including yours. With a deliberate gesture, she activated a final display. Schematics of hegemony shield technology and faster-than-light drive systems, partially decoded from the captured database. For the first time, Tok showed genuine reaction, a widening of pupils and flaring of scale-covered gill slits. Impossible, your species couldn't possibly understand. But we do, Park interrupted. In 3 months, we've made significant progress reverse engineering your technology. Given 3 years, we'll match it. Given 30, we might surpass it. The Admiral's lower arms moved to touch something at his waist, possibly a weapon, then stopped. What is the purpose of this display, human? Park deactivated her tablet. Not to threaten, Admiral, but to explain why the standard hegemony approach won't work with Earth. We're not here to negotiate our surrender or classification. We're here to declare our terms. Earth and its solar system are sovereign territory, off-limits to hegemony interference. A harsh barking sound emerged from Tok. Laughter, perhaps. You cannot simply declare yourselves exempt from galactic order. There are procedures, hierarchies, tests of worthiness. We're not asking permission, Park said softly. We're giving fair warning. Humanity won't be classified, processed, or managed. Any attempt to force the issue will be met with resistance, increasingly effective resistance as we continue to adapt your own technology against you. Tok's scales darkened with what might have been anger. Your primitive defiance is noted but meaningless. The hegemony spans 12,000 star systems. Your single world, however unusual, cannot stand against such power. Perhaps not today, Park acknowledged, but we don't need to defeat your entire empire. We only need to make Earth too costly to subdue. She stepped closer. How many ships are you willing to lose, Admiral? How will you explain to your council that a primitive species destroyed their prestigious fleet? The air between them seemed to crackle with tension. Park could feel her heart pounding, but kept her expression calm. You've overestimated your position, Tok finally said, though something in his posture had changed. The High Council will never accept such terms. Then they should prepare for a demonstration of why they should, Park replied. Earth won't fire the first shot, Admiral, but we will absolutely fire the last. As they returned to the shuttle, Park could feel Tok's 4 eyes studying her. The Admiral had dismissed their demands publicly, but she recognized the calculating look of a military commander reassessing a threat. Earth had 3 months of preparation, and the hegemony had just learned that humans were unlike any species they had encountered before. The shuttle detached from the massive ship, returning to a planet whose fate now hung in the balance between diplomacy and defiance. The first signs of the incoming hegemony battle fleet appeared as tiny disruptions in Earth's deep space monitoring network. 37 ships, each larger than anything humanity had built, tore through the fabric of space at the edge of the solar system. Their arrival wasn't a surprise. After Admiral Tok's return to hegemony space 3 weeks earlier, Earth had been preparing day and night. On the moon's dark side, General Han stood in the hidden command center, carved deep beneath the lunar surface. Holographic displays showed the approaching armada, a formation of warships arranged in the hegemony's characteristic arrowhead pattern. "They're exactly where we predicted," Han said, her voice steady despite the enormous responsibility weighing on her shoulders. "All defense systems online?" "Yes, General," replied Colonel Jin, her operations officer. "Orbital platforms disguised as satellites are in position. The modified asteroid defense grid is powered up but running silent. Ground-based counterattack. Units are standing by." Han nodded, watching the enemy ships decelerate as they passed Neptune's orbit. "And our special surprise?" Jin smiled slightly. "Ready, General. The engineers say the modifications exceed all expectations." "Good." Han straightened her uniform and addressed the command staff. "Remember, people, let them come to us. Let them think they have the advantage until they're fully committed." The hegemony fleet moved with practiced precision, splitting into 3 battle groups as they approached Mars. Their communications, intercepted and decoded by Earth specialists, revealed their confidence. "Primitive defenses detected only in near-Earth orbit," reported a hegemony tactical officer to Fleet Commander Vex. "Minimal resistance expected. Their technology is centuries behind ours." Vex, a veteran of 17 planetary subjugations, clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. "Proceed as planned. First wave will eliminate their orbital capabilities. Second wave will deploy atmospheric disruptors to demonstrate our power. When they surrender, third wave will begin the landing operation." On Earth, civilians had been moved to underground shelters, but there was no panic. For 3 months, the truth had been shared openly. Aliens were coming, and humanity would fight as one. The first hegemony battle group crossed the orbit of Earth's moon, their massive ships casting shadows on the lunar surface as they passed. Earth's meager defense fleet, just 40 ships of various sizes, moved to intercept, appearing hopelessly outmatched. "They're sending their ships straight at us," Jin observed. "They don't suspect a thing," Han nodded. "Wait for it. Wait." She watched the tactical display as the hegemony ships moved deeper into the carefully prepared killing zone. "Now, execute Operation Trojan." Across Earth orbit, what appeared to be ordinary communication satellites suddenly powered up, unveiling hidden weapon systems reverse-engineered from the captured scout ship. Simultaneously, the primitive human fleet transmitted a signal on a specific frequency. Aboard the lead hegemony vessel, confusion erupted. "Our shields are failing," cried a technician. "Some kind of resonance cascade. The frequency matches our own systems." Before Fleet Commander Vex could respond, the disguised Earth weapons platforms opened fire. Beams of concentrated energy, based on the hegemony's own technology, but modified to pierce their specific shield harmonics, lanced through space, striking with unerring precision. 3 hegemony cruisers erupted in silent explosions, their advanced hulls rupturing from weapons they never expected humans to possess. "Impossible!" Vex roared. "Counterattack immediately! Launch all fighters!" The space between Earth and Moon became a cauldron of light and destruction. Hegemony fighters swarmed toward Earth, only to be met by clouds of tiny drones, barely larger than missiles, but each carrying the same shield-piercing technology. On the Lunar Command Center, Han watched the battle unfold. "Phase 2, she ordered calmly. "Activate the Mars defense grid." Behind the hegemony fleet, what they had dismissed as ordinary asteroids suddenly activated, revealing massive engines that propelled them toward the alien ships. Each asteroid had been hollowed out and filled with a mixture of Earth explosives and technology salvaged from the scout ship. Detecting new threats from behind, a hegemony officer shouted, "The asteroids are moving." The hegemony's second wave turned to face this unexpected threat, dividing their attention, exactly as Han had planned. As they repositioned, Earth's supposedly primitive fleet executed a maneuver no hegemony tactician had anticipated. They accelerated directly toward the enemy, closing to point-blank range where the aliens' superior weapons had difficulty tracking smaller targets. "Their tactics are insane," Vex growled. "No species fights this way." 3 hours into the battle, 17 hegemony ships had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining vessels regrouped, their formation ragged. "They're adapting to our weapons," Jin reported, her face illuminated by the tactical displays. "Shield frequencies are shifting," Han nodded. "As expected. Initiate lightning protocol." Across Earth's night side, massive electromagnetic accelerators that had been disguised as civilian power facilities powered up. Each fired a volley of kinetic projectiles, simple metal rods traveling at near relativistic speeds. Against these physical objects, even the hegemony's advanced shields proved useless. 5 more alien ships shattered under the impacts, their debris creating a hazardous cloud that further complicated their fleet movements. By the 5th hour, the battle had become a desperate struggle for the hegemony forces. Their coordinated strategy had collapsed into individual ships fighting for survival against an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. "General," Jin said quietly, "the enemy flagship is attempting to organize a retreat." Han studied. The display then made her final decision. "Target all remaining ships except the flagship. Let it escape." The last hour of the battle was little more than a cleanup operation. The hegemony flagship, its hull scorched and systems damaged, limped away from Earth with the remnants of 2 escort vessels. In its command center, Fleet Commander Vex watched in stunned disbelief as the recording devices captured humanity's final message. "Broadcast on all hegemony frequencies. This was a demonstration, not our full capability," said General Han's translated voice. "Earth is off limits. Return and face extinction. The choice is yours." As the battered flagship accelerated away, from the graveyard of its fleet, Vex realized with growing dread that the High Council had catastrophically underestimated this species. The recordings would show a defeat unlike any in hegemony history, and the implications would shake the foundations of their empire. Behind them, Earth began the process of salvaging the alien wreckage, each piece adding to humanity's growing technological arsenal and strengthening their resolve to remain free in a universe suddenly much larger and more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Deep within the central archives of the hegemony's capital world, Scholar Geon moved his ancient frame slowly along forgotten shelves. While the High Council chambers above echoed with furious debate over the Earth disaster, Geon pursued a different path. Something about the humans had triggered a memory, a reference in text so old most had forgotten they existed. Geon's 6-fingered hands trembled slightly as he activated the molecular scanner that would allow him to read documents preserved for millennia. Unlike most hegemony officials, who measured their careers in decades, Geon had served as keeper of ancient knowledge for over 3 centuries. His species' longevity had allowed him to accumulate wisdom others lacked. "Archive retrieval drone," he called, his voice thin but commanding. "Access restriction category Omega-9 historical quarantine directives." A hovering metallic sphere pulsed with acknowledgement and glided deeper into the stacks. Geon settled his frail body onto a floating chair and waited. The defeated Earth had shaken the hegemony to its core. 30 ships lost. Thousands of crew members dead. Advanced technology not just resisted but turned against them. The High Council was preparing a full-scale invasion. Hundreds of ships. Planet-killer weapons, overwhelming force. But Geon suspected they were making a terrible mistake. The drone returned, carrying a sealed container marked with warning symbols, so old even Geon struggled to interpret them. He pressed his palm against the genetic lock, and the case hissed open, revealing a data crystal and a physical scroll, technology so ancient it predated the hegemony itself. On the other side of the galaxy, human researchers worked in the newly discovered ruins beneath the surface of Mars. Dr. Song directed excavation of what appeared to be a monitoring station, hidden for thousands of years under the red planet's dust. "Careful with that panel," she instructed a technician. "Those markings match nothing in our databases or the hegemony files we captured. The structure had been discovered during Mars's expanded colonization effort, accelerated dramatically after the 6-hour war. Humanity was spreading through the solar system with renewed purpose, driven by the knowledge that they were not alone. In the universe, Dr. Song called her assistant, "You need to see this." In a chamber deeper inside the structure, they had uncovered what appeared to be stasis pods, most damaged beyond recognition, but one still intact. Inside, barely visible through the frosted surface, was a humanoid figure. Back in the hegemony archives, Gion's eyes widened as he translated the ancient text. According to records predating the hegemony by 2,000 years, an earlier galactic civilization had encountered a species called the Terrans on a blue world in an unremarkable solar system. The Terrans had demonstrated alarming capabilities, rapid technological adaptation, unusual physical resilience, and most disturbing, an aggressive expansion impulse coupled with remarkable unity when threatened. After the Terran conflict resulted in the loss of 3 colonial sectors, Gion read aloud, the Galactic Concord determined that containment rather than elimination was the prudent course. The species was in its early development stage, but demonstrated potential evolution paths too dangerous to allow unfettered growth. Gion's hands trembled as he continued reading. The solution had been to establish a quarantine zone around the entire solar system. Automated stations were placed on neighboring planets, particularly the Red Fourth planet, to monitor the Terrans and ensure they remained isolated. More chilling was the final directive. This containment protocol shall remain in effect until either the species self-terminates or evolves beyond their aggressive tendencies. Under no circumstances shall contact be initiated. On Mars, Dr. Song stared at the results of the DNA analysis from the stasis pod occupant. The genetic structure was unmistakably human, but with subtle differences suggesting an evolutionary divergence roughly 20,000 years ago. "It's like looking at our distant ancestor," she murmured. But what were they doing here on Mars? The team had also discovered what appeared to be monitoring equipment aimed at Earth, as well as weapon systems that had long since powered down. Most revealing was a partially functioning database that their specialists were beginning to decrypt. "Dr. Song," called one of the technicians, "we've managed to translate some of the text. It appears to be a warning about Earth. It describes humans as dangerous, a threat to galactic stability." Song's brow furrowed. "They weren't protecting us. They were protecting everyone else from us." In the hegemony's High Council chamber, Gion presented his findings to the assembled leaders. Fleet Admiral Tok, still bearing burn scars from the Earth battle, listened with growing alarm. Genetic comparison between these ancient Terrans and modern humans confirms they are the same species, Gion explained, projecting holographic DNA strands. The quarantine was established 50,000 years ago, when humans were primitive. The monitoring stations were supposed to prevent their expansion until they either destroyed themselves or evolved beyond their dangerous traits. And instead they've evolved to become even more dangerous, Tok concluded grimly. "Precisely," Gion said. "The ancient Concord feared what humans might become if allowed to develop unchecked. Their solution was containment." "A containment that has clearly failed," growled a military counselor. "Which is why we must launch our invasion immediately with maximum force." Gion shook his head. "The records show the ancient Concord tried that approach first. They sent 3 successive attack fleets, each larger than the last. None returned. The Terrans of that era had only primitive technology, but they captured and reverse-engineered enough with each attack to counter the next." Sound familiar? The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Back on Mars, Dr. Song and her team gathered around the central holographic display showing their translation progress. "These Terran ancestors," Song said slowly, "they weren't originally from Earth. According to this data, they were a spacefaring branch of humanity that escaped from some earlier conflict. They established the monitoring stations to warn other species away, not because they feared for Earth's primitive humans, but because they knew what their descendants might become." The implications were staggering. Humanity had been quarantined, not out of cruelty, but out of fear well-founded, as the 6-hour war had proven. As Dr. Song gazed at the ancient human in stasis, She wondered what warnings this forgotten ancestor might give, and whether the modern hegemony would be wise enough to heed them before launching an attack that might awaken something even more dangerous in humanity's nature. The hegemony diplomatic vessel that entered Earth orbit looked nothing like the warships that had preceded it. Where their battlecraft had been angular and threatening, this ship resembled a massive silver lotus, its petal-like sections slowly rotating around a crystalline core that shimmered with colors no human eye had seen before. Dr. Park stood at the observation window of the International Space Station's new diplomatic bay, watching as the alien shuttle detached from the main vessel. Behind her, Commander Kim adjusted his dress uniform, the medals from the 6-hour war catching the light. "They're sending their Grand Emissary," Park said, scanning the data on her tablet. "According to the records we extracted from their database, that's the highest diplomatic rank in their hierarchy. They've never sent one to a non-member world before." Kim nodded, his expression giving away nothing. "Perhaps losing 34 ships and 12,000 crew members has taught them some respect." The shuttle docked with perfect precision. When the airlock cycled open, the delegation that emerged was like nothing Earth's representatives had expected. Leading them was not a military figure like Admiral Tok, but a being of startling beauty. The Grand Emissary stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent skin that seemed to flow like liquid mercury. Where most hegemony species had exoskeletons, or scales, the emissary appeared almost fluid yet solid. "I am Xi, Grand Emissary of the Hegemony Collective," the being announced, its voice like chimes in a gentle breeze. "I bring greetings and the sincere desire for peaceful resolution between our civilizations." The negotiations took place over 7 Earth days. Unlike the tense confrontation with Admiral Tok, these discussions were marked by a cautious but genuine exchange of ideas. The hegemony representatives seemed genuinely curious about humanity, asking questions about Earth's diverse cultures, art, and history. On the 5th day, during a private meeting with Dr. Park, the truth finally emerged. "Your scholar Gion has been quite thorough in his research," Park noted, watching the emissary's reaction carefully. "We know about the ancient quarantine. We've found the monitoring stations on Mars." Xi's fluid features shifted in what might have been surprise. "You've accessed those ruins? They were supposed to be unreachable with your level of technology." "That's the point you keep missing about humans," Park said, leaning forward. "We don't progress at predictable rates. When challenged or threatened, we accelerate." The ruins weren't just accessible. We've decrypted much of their database. For the first time, the emissary's composure faltered. "Then you know that Earth was quarantined because an ancient galactic civilization feared what humans might become?" Park finished. "Yes, we know we're considered dangerous. What I don't understand is why you're negotiating now when your military leaders were so eager to subjugate us before." Xi moved to the viewport, gazing down at Earth. "The Hegemony Council was divided after your demonstration. Many advocated for a full invasion, believing that overwhelming numbers would succeed where the first fleet failed." The being's form rippled slightly. Then Scholar Geon presented his findings about the ancient Terran conflict. The similarities were disturbing. "You're afraid of us," Park said simply. "It wasn't a question." "Not of your current capabilities," Xi clarified, turning back to face her, "but of your potential. The ancient records show that each time the previous Concord attacked the early Terrans, your ancestors grew stronger in response. 3 successive fleets were lost, each larger than the last, before they established the quarantine. And now, history has repeated itself," Park observed. "Precisely. Our analysts project that if we launched our main invasion force and you somehow defeated it, the resulting technological leap would make humanity unstoppable within this galactic quadrant." On the final day, the terms were presented to Earth's United Council. The hegemony formally recognized Earth and its solar system as sovereign territory. In exchange, humanity would limit its expansion to nearby star systems for the next 100 years, giving both civilizations time to establish proper diplomatic relations. "There are those in the hegemony who still fear you," Xi admitted during the signing ceremony. "Your species lacks the specialization that defines most intelligent life. Where other species excel at specific adaptations, humans are versatile, in ways we find unpredictable. Commander Kim, standing beside Dr. Park at the reception afterward, watched as human and alien representatives cautiously mingled. "They still don't understand us," he said quietly. "Even now they're trying to categorize us according to their standards." Park nodded. "That's their weakness. They evolved in a universe where species find their niche and stay there. We never stop adapting, never accept limitations as permanent." She sipped from her glass, watching the emissary converse with Earth's president. "Did you notice how the final agreement contains no provisions for monitoring our compliance? They're afraid to provoke us by suggesting surveillance." "So what happens when the 100 years are up?" Kim asked. "By then, we'll be established beyond this solar system. We'll have learned more about their technology, their culture, their weaknesses." Park's expression was neither threatening nor triumphant, merely factual. "And they know it." Later, as the hegemony delegation prepared to depart, Xi approached Dr. Park one last time. "I must confess something," the emissary said. "Before coming, here I reviewed all records of species that required quarantine protocols. Do you know how many were deemed too dangerous to contact rather than conquer?" "I assume we're rare," Park replied. "You are unique," Xi corrected. "The only species ever designated as a Class X evolutionary threat. The ancient Terrans earned that classification not through technology or physical strength, but through what our ancestors called adaptive vengeance, the ability to transform any attack into an opportunity for growth. As the magnificent Lotus ship pulled away from Earth orbit, Commander Kim joined Dr. Park at the viewport. "Was it worth it?" he asked. "All those lives lost in the 6-hour war just to end up with a piece of paper?" Park shook her head. "What we gained isn't written in any treaty. We've established a boundary more powerful than any weapon could create. Earth is off limits, not because of some decree, but because they dread what would happen if they challenged us again." The hegemony ship activated its faster-than-light drive, disappearing in a flash of light that briefly outshone the stars themselves. "And that," Park said with the hint of a smile, "suits humanity just fine." The end.